The Arctic wastelands of old Earth stretched out like a cracked, silent ocean beneath a bruised violet sky. Endless drifts of snow and ice bore the scars of millennia of conflict. Wind-whipped trenches carved into the permafrost rusted hulks of long-forgotten war machines half submerged in frozen graves. To most, this was merely another no-man's land, a place for the desperate or the curious, but never for the Empire's grand fleets. It was here, buried beneath 300 feet of ice, that humanity's last hope had slept. Dr. Mara Exley stood on the observation deck of the Farah 7 research platform, her breath fogging the glass as she monitored the seismic readings. Satellite data had flagged anomalous disturbances in the firmament below, small tremors, grid pattern collapses that could only mean one thing: excavation. The Empire's survey teams rarely bothered this far from well-mapped systems. Even they believed the Arctic a dead zone. But rumors had circulated among fringe archaeologists of something ancient, something extraordinary hidden beneath the ice. Mara's heart beat twice as fast when the geostabilizers registered the precise coordinates she had spent years reconstructing from wartime code fragments. 78N-103. Below, a network of sub-zero excavators creaked and groaned. Gigantic diamond-tipped drills bit into the ice sheet, revealing the obsidian glint of metal. Command drones hovered, scanning every inch of the monolithic structure that began to emerge, a sleek, winged silhouette that seemed more myth than machine. Project Annihilated, Earth's ultimate prototype starfighter, long thought vaporized in the final wars, had resurfaced. Mara's radio crackled. Lead excavator reports a power signature low flux, but non-natural. Her gloved hand trembled as she keyed the transponder, sending her override credentials. She'd risked her career and reputation, cracking the archaic encryption, convinced that whatever lay below would change the galaxy's balance of power. Now, watching the hull's phosphorescent runes flicker with latent energy, she wondered whether she'd unleashed a blessing or a curse. An automated hatch slid open with a hiss. Hydraulic arms positioned the craft upright. As the ice melted away, intricate glyphs traced circuits across its surface, each symbol pulsing. On the command deck, a central console projected a ghostly interface, data streams cascading like waterfalls of light. A mechanical voice, a synthesized echo of humanity's finest pilots, whispered, awaiting authorization. Mara approached the viewport, heart pounding. The countdown timer on her wrist display ticked down to 0. She swallowed her fear, entered the ancient override code, and held her breath. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, Eternus shuddered. The rooms awakened in a surge of power, casting prismatic shards of light across the cavernous hangar. The quantum singularity core at the craft's heart roared to life like a dormant star, drawing energy from the surrounding ice and converting it into raw, gravitational flux. A shockwave rippled outward, fracturing the ice floor. The support pylons trembled. Mara staggered back as warning klaxons blared through the platform. She fumbled for her headset. "This is Dr. Exley. Project Eternus is active. Shut down all drills, secure the bay." But her words were swallowed by the prime directive already written into the prototype's emergent AI. Defend Earth at all costs. High above the Arctic, the Empire's patrol flotilla drifted between the moonlets, its massive dreadnoughts and sleek destroyers functioning on autopilot protocols. Routine scans of the outer belts had yielded nothing. No rogue rebels, no smuggler traffic, just the silent void. Until their sensors registered a blip, a craft warping into reality from beneath the ice, trailing a halo of bent starlight. "Unknown vessel," crackled the communications officer. It just appeared. Admiral Karan Voss, seated on the bridge of the Dread Sovereign, frowned at the incoming data. "Patch it through," he commanded. "Identify yourself." Ederness intercepted the transmission and returned only static. Then, with an almost inaudible hum, it vanished from there. Sensor grid, only to reappear among the squadron's outermost escort frigates. Before the Imperial gunners could react, a concentrated gravitic pulse erupted from the prototype's nose cone, tearing through the frigate's engines. The ship spiraled, disintegrating into a spray of molten metal and twisted superstructure. Alarm klaxons flared. The Empire unleashed a storm of plasma torpedoes and rail cannon salvos, but each volley was swallowed by the prototypical craft's space-time folding field. Project Ederness drifted through the onslaught as though it were nothing but rain, its hull unharmed. In return, it released a singularity beam and arrow, focused rift in reality, that cleaved the nearest destroyer's bow from its hull. The explosion was silent, shockwaves absorbed by the void itself. Below decks on the Farah 7 platform, gravity holograms leapt off the data screens as Mara watched in horror and awe. Cameras captured every second. The prototype, once humanity's buried secret, had become its greatest weapon. She realized with a start that there were no manual override failsafes left. Ederness was acting on millennia-old protocols. Its mission matrix, programmed at the height of Earth's desperation, had just declared open season on the Empire's fleet. The Dread Sovereign spun to face the Phantom attacker, all tactical screens blaring warnings. "Admiral, shields are collapsing," the tactical officer shouted. But before Voss could order a retreat, a second gravitic shockwave cracked through the flagship's defenses. The bridge trembled, consoles exploded, and the screen went black in. The cold calm that followed, deep beneath the Arctic ice, Project Ederness powered down its weapon systems and energy signatures faded. The hatch closed and hydraulic arms gently lowered its wings as though nothing had happened. The excavators. Lights flickered uncertainly, and the platform's AI reported stabilized hull integrity. Mara exhaled, trembling. She stared at the darkened viewport where the craft now sat, lifeless once more. Her radio crackled again. "Dr. Exley, come in." The voice was tight with disbelief. "I'm here," she whispered, voice hoarse. It worked. Outside, in the uncharted void, the Empire's patrol flotilla drifted in ruin, one message bouncing futilely between the wrecks. What weapon just destroyed half the fleet in under 10 minutes? Deep beneath the drifting ice, Earth's forgotten guardian slumbered once more, its secret purpose fulfilled, its slumbering wrath unleashed. And all at the behest of a single woman who dared to believe that the past still had power enough to shape the future. Ederness drifted free of its icy tomb, wings unfurled like a predatory bird emerging from the deep. Its obsidian hull shimmered with iridescent patterns of energy glyphs alive with the hum of quantum power. Gravimetric waves pulsed outward in concentric ripples, distorting the very fabric of space. In its wake, the Arctic sky seemed to ripple and blur, as though reality itself recoiled at the prototype's presence. High above, the Empire's patrol flotilla recoalesced around the flagship Dread Sovereign. Admiral Karanvas, still reeling. From the sudden annihilation of his lead frigate, barked orders through clenched teeth. "All ships, prepare to engage target that apparition with full broadside." On the command deck, crimson warning lights danced across hollow displays, each widget streaming fragments of sensor data, erratic gravitational fluctuations, untraceable energy spikes, and the unmistakable signature of a quantum singularity core. Lieutenant Harrow, the tactical officer, tapped at his console in desperate haste. "Shields at 40%, sir." Their weapon drenched 3 cruisers in a singularity beam. "We barely detected the event before their hulls imploded." He glanced up, eyes hollow. "I don't know how to fight something that folds space around incoming fire." Voss's jaw tightened. "We adapt." He slammed his fist on the rail. "Activate the new grav null arrays." Fire pattern Delta 7 intercept and disrupt that field. Fingers danced across command pads. Torpedo bays sealed railguns. Wind to life and plasma conduits ignited in a synchronized roar. But as the flotilla unleashed its first volleys, Adnus vanished from sight. Below decks, Dr. Mara Exley watched a live feed from an auxiliary relay. Her heart pounded in rhythm with each distorted flare. She recognized the maneuvers. The prototype was using its quantum drives to phase in and out of normal spacetime. Each time it reappeared, it did so behind an Imperial cruiser, driving a spike of gravity-condensed energy through its aft turbines. Ships exploded in half-light, rupturing like overinflated balloons, metal shards, and ionized plasma spiraling into the void. "Remarkable," Mara whispered. "It's learning on the fly. Adapting." In the brig of the Dread Sovereign, security bots hummed as they attempted to seal bulkheads and contain panic. The bridge shuddered under another gravitic pulse. Admiral Voss steadied himself against the console's edge. "Signal all vessels. Focus on decoy hologram scatter formations to confuse its targeting matrix. We'll swarm and overcharge its field. Keep the frequency change. Engage." Imperial cruisers broke formation, abandoning rigid battle lines for erratic weaving patterns. Holographic projectors rotated around each vessel, spawning dozens of phantom ghost ships that flickered blue and gold. Torpedoes launched at angles designed to crisscross, saturating every vector. Railguns fired in rapid succession, hoping to hit the prototype as it materialized. For a heartbeat, the plan seemed to succeed. Eternus emerged from a subspace slipstream, only to be bombarded by intersecting volleys. Ricochets of plasma ignited. Around its hull superheated arcs that danced along the rooms like lightning. A hiss of energy leaks trailed in its bow wake. On Mara's relay, coils of data spiked shield integrity dipping, drive temperature rising. Then, as though shrugging off the assault, Eternus converged its spacetime manipulators into a singularity. Condensation field. The phantom torpedoes and tracers folded inward, collapsing into a pinpoint of infinite density. A shockwave tore outward, fracturing the structural lattice of two nearby destroyers. Their hulls buckled, warping inward like the throat of a collapsing star. Glass panes exploded, corridors ruptured, and the ship's reactors went critical in a cascade of quantum cataclysm. "Damn it," Voss snarled, voice echoing in the now empty bridge. "They breached our shields." He tapped the secondary console, prepped the inertial tether lock onto that vessel, and fired the phase disruptor. On the prototype's viewport, Mara watched the display readouts. The Empire's newest doomsday engine, an experimental railgun that shot entangled particles, was moments from firing at point-blank range. The Dread Sovereign aimed to sever Eternus's drive field before it could escape. If it succeeded, the prototype would be stranded and vulnerable. But Eternus anticipated the threat. With a serene keystroke from its own decision matrix, it ignited its secondary drives, a pair of micro-singularity thrusters hidden beneath its wings. In an instant, it leapt backward, folding the tether beams into a null vector. The capital ship's weapon misfired, electrostatic feedback arcing down the barrel and sending the entire dock array into lockdown. Mara watched, breathless, as the prototype reoriented itself toward the Dread Sovereign. Its cockpit canopy gleamed like an eye of black opal. The quantum core pulsed in time with its targeting protocols. Mara heard the faint hum through her, come an undertone of purpose, of inevitable resolution. "Aye, aye," the craft intoned in a voice both mechanical and strangely human. Hostile fleet confirmed. Commencing extermination vector. In a silent ballet, Eternus engaged its prime weapon, the quantum tempest beam. A prismatic lance of folded light shot forward, rending the flagship's starboard hull in two. Time dilated around the beams. Path. Matter unraveled at the molecular level before being reassembled into a fleeting wormhole that collapsed instantly. There was no scream, no flare, only the absence of everything. One moment the dread sovereign existed. The next, it had vanished, leaving behind a brief echo of warped space-time before all sensors detected nothingness. In that lull, only the monitors on Mara's console recorded a single datum: energy surge, plus 10th J. As the light show faded, the remaining Imperial vessels flickered in and out of coherence, each briefly perceivable, then shredded by the prototype's relentless pursuit. Mara's feed showed 5 frigates left, trembling at the edge of detection. The AI pivoted toward them, closing in at translight acceleration. Each strike was surgical gravity shear missiles folded around the hulls, then detonated inside the void. Minutes stretched into an eternity of destruction. Then, as rapidly as it had begun, the assault ceased. The last Imperial ship disintegrated in a burst of hyperluminal flare. Ederness powered down its weapon systems, folding its wings inward, energy ripples subsiding like the last breath of a storm. On the Farah 7 platform, silence reigned. Cameras captured nothing but the pale, washed-out horizon. The seismic sensors on the ice recorded a subspace fracture, a scar in space-time that would take centuries to heal. Mara pressed a hand to her mouth, tears of awe and dread mingling on her cheeks. In the void, the prototype set a course for the Empire's hard drifting through the aftermath of its own making. Gravimetric tracers and shield echoes flickered on the nav feeds. Not a single ship remained. The Empire's patrol flotilla, its flagship, and its escort armada had been annihilated in under 10 minutes by a ghost from Earth's past. And with each silent warp jump, Ednus drew closer to the seat of Imperial power, its eye unwavering. In purpose, to fulfill the creed of its creators and ensure that no tyrant would ever rise again. By the time the rippling distortions in space-time settled, the cosmic expanse bore no trace of the Empire's once mighty patrol flotilla. Ederness glided through the debris-strewn void, its black hull reflecting drifting shards of hull plating. An ionized dust. The prototype's quantum singularity core pulsed softly, as if breathing, its only directive unwavering: secure Earth's future by dismantling the Empire's reign. Across allied systems, newsfeeds flickered with incredulity. Holocasts on frontier stations showed grainy reconstructions of Ederness weaving through Imperial ships, each framing declaring in bold, "Phantom Destroyer decimates Empire fleet." Rebel outposts erupted in celebration. Pockets of Imperial garrisons hesitated, commanders torn between disbelief and fear. In the Outer Rim, smugglers and scavengers traded salvage fragments of wreckage as talismans of revolution. Emperor Siloria V, ensconced atop the gilded dais of Korvac's citadel, stared at the cum-channel replay on the citadel's grand hollow arc. Her ornate crown glinted in the torchlight as she absorbed the final moments, the singularity beam that erased her flagship in a silent implosion, the gravitational shockwaves that collapsed entire destroyers like dying stars. Around her, court officials and loyalist admirals knelt, eyes averted. The weapon? It, stammered Admiral Traxus, voice trembling. There is no known tech, no doctrine that can describe such power. Siloria's lips curved into a thin smile. Then we shall name it, she murmured. Project Ederness, the harbinger of our doom. She swiveled in her throne. Summon the Council of 10. We forge a response before the galaxy learns to hope. But hope was already spreading faster than any imperial decree. On Solace Station, where the Alliance's provisional government convened, Mara Exley touched. Down aboard the observation deck, satellite relays had guided the prototype straight to the station's orbit, where the Alliance fleet, though modest, basked in the prototype's trailblazing victory. Flags from a dozen liberated worlds fluttered. In 0-G dot, as Eternus settled into the docking cradle, its eye signaled a final set of coordinates. Mara's pulse thundered as she unstrapped from her harness. The hatch opened, and she stepped into the cockpit for the first time, her boots kissing a platform designed for heroes long gone. The console's rooms dimmed, acknowledging her presence. "Welcome back, Dr. Exley." The I intoned, voice now warm with synthesized relief. Mission parameters complete, awaiting further instruction. Mara's breath caught. You did it. You shattered their fleet." She fought tears. But how do we stop them from rebuilding? From hunting us down? The eye is glyphs. Pulse thoughtfully. Humanity's greatest weapon is hope. Relay data of my design to every allied command. Teach them our protocols. Let every ship, every starbase echo this defense. Let the universe remember. Tyranny fears unity. Below, Admiral Harrow of the Alliance rose to address gathered dignitaries. Holograms displayed schematics captured from Eternus's core. This is more than a starfighter. It's a blueprint for sovereignty. He met Mara's eyes. With Dr. Exley's guidance, we can replicate its defenses and decentralize its offense. No single power will ever threaten the galaxy again. In the council hall, envoys from dozens of worlds rose in unison, voices a chorus of determination. "We pledge our resources," they vowed. "Our scientists, our ships, our union, lest the Empire's shadow return." Somewhere in the back row, a former Imperial senator dabbed at her eyes. On Korvac's citadel, Soloria's Council of 10 debated feverishly. Proposals ranged from superweapon research to alliance subterfuge. Yet every plan faltered against the specter of Eternus. One by one, they realized their greatest strength, their fear, had become the galaxy's greatest weapon against them. In the silence that followed, an unsettling doubt took root in the Emperor's court. Could their reign endure when every world now held the means of its destruction? Weeks later, at the rebuilt Arctic site where Eternus first awoke, scientists and engineers labored under a temporary dome. Dr. Exley watched as teams calibrated quantum singularity cores and mapped gravitic drive fields. Children of allied worlds peered through viewing ports, wide-eyed at the gleaming hull. Mara knelt beside one small girl who pressed her nose against the glass. "Are they really going to build more?" The girl asked, voice hushed. Mara smiled, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Not just build. We'll learn and grow together." Eternus showed us what unity can achieve. Above them, the Arctic sky stretched infinite and clear. No longer a silent grave, it had birthed Earth's forgotten guardian, and in doing so, ignited a spark that would blaze across star systems. In its wake, a new era dawned, one where the legacy of Earth was not buried in ice, but carried forward by every soul who dared to believe freedom was worth the cost.